Good evening, and we are back for another Supercoach Hub AFL podcast. Obviously, this is a live stream. Thank you for everyone that's joining in. Joshy, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad at all. Keen to get on and talk some Supercoach. Very excited for some
Absolutely.
footy tomorrow. We got our first preseason game with Melbourne and Richmond. Yeah, just keen to talk Supercoach in general tonight.
Absolutely. There's going to be some interest tomorrow as well. Obviously, we know that Clary's playing twos. Bit of a
Yeah,
warm up for him, but I think there's going to be some eyes on your man Billings and Windsor as well. Some big interest there.
mm, absolutely. And even like rookies from Richmond, like McAuliffe, and I know Dow's a bit more elevated, but there's a few that are starting to get
Mm.
interest in him too.
There's one that hasn't been spoken about much. It's Bailey Laurie. I'm interested in
Mm,
him. Very interested in him. I know he was actually a defender forward a few years back and everybody had him, but unfortunately didn't end up playing, which was a bit rough for him, but obviously good for us if we can pick him up early and he gets a few games. That'd be
yeah,
very
absolutely.
handy.
I think
But
it's like
tonight,
his yeah. Yeah, I
no,
think
no,
it's his third or fourth season in the system now, and
yeah,
he played 4 games last year, but pretty sub impacted, so his scoring wasn't too great.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, tonight's going to be structure and some just general chat, really. Got some few questions that were sent in prior to us starting, which is absolutely wonderful. But straight into structure, because there's some very good talking points regarding structure, especially what I guess constitutes a premium. So you can always have a good discussion on that. But if we're talking out and out premiums, I'm in a bit of a dilemma because currently my structure at the moment is 4 premium defenders, 4 premium midfielders, 2 premium ruckmen, and 0 premium forwards. As you hate, I'm running Nat Five at F1 currently. Um, and yeah, that's the reaction that I thought I'd get. And I'm a bit stuck on it because my M6 is Guthrie at the moment, and my F1 is obviously Fife, as I just said. But I'm going in between Flanders F1 and obviously a rookie in the midfield. But I'm not too sure what's going to eventuate yet. They're the only two changes I seem to be making regularly, which is, I guess, good but annoying at the same time. So, as I said, just to reiterate, currently running a 4-4-2-0 for me, but that's with Nick Martin and Cam Guthrie in the midfield as well. What about yourself, mate? How are you looking?
Yeah, pretty similar to you actually. I've got the 4 promos down back, the 5 in the midfield with
Mm,
Guthrie also at M6, and then I've got Gaundy in the rucks,
yep.
and then yeah, I'm running Harms at F1 at the moment. And, that's just, again, like you need to see some preseason games. But at the moment, it's probably what I'm leaning towards going that 0 premium forward line. But Flanders is, again, what you were saying, a big watch for me, whether I go him at F1 and take out Guthrie or go Guthrie M6 and more high end rookie to go with him. So that's what I'm rolling with. And I'm pretty happy with it at the moment.
Yep. Yep. No, I completely agree. There was some fantastic comments that we'll get into shortly from Dimmer regarding Flanders, which I mean, it was very open, which is very handy for super coaches like us. That information so early on is just wonderful. But I know he's got that buy. But Cam Guthrie, if he can replicate what he's done in seasons past, I know he's been fantastic when he has actually been fit. And it just makes me think, is he going to be the number one midfielder for the Cats? And if he is, at 420k, surely that's the best stepping stone in the game. What's your thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, well, I think he is that number one guy in the Cats midfield. Danger's getting a bit old, well, pretty old now.
Oh, he's
Probably in
ancient.
his last
Ancient.
2 or 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah, and they've got Atkins there, Bruin. It's like it's a very inexperienced slash younger midfield with the guys that are coming through.
Mm.
And I think he is the leader of that. And I think he's definitely in their first 3 rotation. And knock on him has always been his time on ground. He's usually played low time on ground, but pure mid, which is a role that hasn't been too bad at all with 99 average in 2022, 2021, he averaged 113, I think, which any of those averages we're laughing as a stepping stone. And I do think that he is the best option as a stepping stone. And I was talking to you earlier today. I think, for example, you could go him for the first 6 to 7 rounds, and then go to someone who's a slow starting primo in merit historically, and he's got a
Yep.
few tags to worry about in the opening rounds. And yeah, it's why I'm looking at it so much instead of a Flanders at F1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, I mean, it's that early buy, isn't it? Like that's just it's so annoying.
Mm,
So annoying. But obviously if
yeah.
Flanders starts like a house on fire, then it's going to be hard to say no because as we discussed the other evening, mate, like we're in dire straits up there, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when there's talk of starting a zero premium forward line, which I've been playing the game for over a decade now, I don't think that's ever been a plausible
Mm.
option. That
Yep.
just speaks volumes for how bad the line is at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I mean, it looks better with Flanders there, and then you've got your mid prices, and then you've obviously got your rookies sitting there. But I don't know. Like this early buy is just annoying. It's really annoying, and
Mm,
obviously you need to take that into consideration, especially like if you've got other players that are also from Gold Coast as well. Like if you're going to be starting a Took as well, I mean, you're going to have a Sexton, but it's
mm.
slowly but surely those numbers just dwindle down because you've got them in your team. It's yeah, a little bit annoying actually, but as I said, that's what I keep coming back to. It's either Flanders or Guthrie. And I mean with Guthrie it allows a rookie that's elevated. So say a Lazaro type, so up to maybe 200k. But
Yeah.
when you've got Flanders there, maybe the mid rookies are a little bit better than the forward rookies. I'm not too sure, but that's what I keep coming back to. And as I said, that's in my midfield currently. I've got Nick Martin at M5 and Cam Guthrie at M6. So I don't consider them premiums. I know if they were in other lines, like if you put Martin into the forward line, do you consider him a premium? What's your thoughts on price points regarding what actually is a premium, mate?
Well, I've always seen 450k plus a premium as in a forward or a back. Not so much back anymore, as there's like so many 100+ options nowadays. But definitely a
Yep.
forward is a 450 plus. But in the midfield, I've always gone with 500 to 550k plus. Just given how many 600k guys there are,
Yep.
even in the rucks
Yep.
is probably the same. But I would also class Grundy as a premium this year. But in
Yeah.
terms of Martin, as you said, put him in the forward line. He's probably top six, and you know what? It's a genuine chance that he ends up a defender this year. So you could even be picking him as a keeper, as a defender. But obviously, it's hard to bank on, as you don't know if he's going to get it.
Well, I think he will. Like all the reports is that he's just training off half back, and again, another opportunity to lay the boots into the Bombers. Like, well, what class and touch? You know, someone that uses the pill really well, like a Nick Martin. Like he was fantastic last year, absolutely sensational. And if he's starting at 492, and then after round 6 he's going to have DPP, that's just like, that's the icing on top. I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
do agree.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would honestly, I would honestly rather Nick Martin at 492k over Parish at 604.
yeah, yeah. I'm a bit stronger in Paris than you are, as you know. Just But I do agree in terms of Martin, how he's like such a classy user, which is something that we really needed out of
Mhm.
halfback exiting D50 last season. Some of
Yeah.
our exiting strategies was horrible. It just comes straight back over the defenders' heads. But my only concern is if Essendon start really slow and they're not getting enough goals, Martin, who has shown that he can kick goals from the midfield, from the wing, maybe do they say, who can we push up the ground to get more goals from? Do they start to put Martin back on that wing? But obviously, just hypotheticals at the moment, and you'd think they at least give him 6 game sample size, which is all we need for the DPP.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you could be right. After round 2, they could have gotten smashed. Not likely, but it's always a possibility. And then they've got to throw the magnets around because, as we just spoke about last year, he was fantastic. I mean, he was all Australian
Hmm.
halfway through the year on that wing.
Yeah,
But as I said before, it seems he's coming off the halfback flank. but also pushing up. It's like he's being told, like, don't
Mm.
worry about your man, just go, go, go. But yeah, I mean, I'm starting to feel a little bit sick talking about Essendon too much. So we're going to move on. This is something right up your alley, mate, because you know about all the talent that's floating around all the, with no disrespect, lesser leagues. And Ethan Phillips has been signed, mate. What do you know about him?
Yeah, well, Port Melbourne key defender. Yeah, won the best young player medal, I think, a couple of years ago in the VFL,
Yep.
and he's a great intercept mark. Gets a fair bit of the pill. He's not so much lockdown, which I think they kind of needed with Blank going out. But then again,
Yep.
they just need someone tall down there because their options are pretty thin. Um, and yeah, 24-year-old this year in I think July or something. And yeah, he's been in the VFL playing for Port Melbourne last few years. Got close in one of the mid-season drafts a couple of years ago. 102k option. You'd think he plays. I think they've signed him purely because they need a key defender and they need a key defender now. So if we're getting a 102k defender down back, it's going to be very very hard to ignore and not pick him. And I think we might have been blessed a bit there.
Oh, absolutely agree. I mean, it's unfortunate that Blank obviously won't be playing this year, but for Supercoach purposes, it's absolutely wonderful that we potentially could have a playing 102k player. It doesn't change my stance on Sicily, though. I think just because, I mean, he's so, like, Phillips, that is, at AFL level, he's so inexperienced. I think Sicily's going to have to carry some of that burden and play a little bit more lockdown. But it doesn't, I'm not starting Sicily. Purely, I was heavy on it until reading into some stats about Tom Stewart, and then I just made the switch. So I think that's something that you definitely have to consider. Absolutely. Clary's playing tomorrow, mate. What do you read into that?
Yeah, well, he's playing. It's in the twos. Yeah,
Yeah.
granted, it's in the twos, but still, I'm just happy that he's getting some footy into him. He seems to have his mind right at the moment. He
Yep.
did look a bit unfit to the Clary that we usually see when he came back in his first session.
Mm-hmm.
But I think any footy's good for him. Maybe
Yeah.
he
Yep.
plays a bit of a half for the twos. And then the next game, he plays a bit of a half in the seniors. And then who knows if he's in their opening round and scores well, then you almost like look at it as a pod selection, only in 2% of sides. And this is a
Absolutely.
guy that's averaged 120 plus 4 seasons in a row at 26 years old. He's a Supercoach king, pretty much. So
He is. Absolutely.
it's very very hard to place um, what he's going to average.
I don't think there's a world where I would start him personally. I mean,
Mm,
he's at 674k. Like, it's just,
yeah,
that's another
yeah,
40k on top of Butters. Obviously it's cheaper than Bont, but it's an awkward price for me personally. Um,
yeah.
I genuinely don't think there would be anything that he could do to make me think I need to have Klaz in my side right now. It's just,
Yeah.
and I think it lessens the appeal of Petraka as well. What's your thoughts
Oh,
on that, mate?
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I tweeted a bit earlier in the preseason Truck's numbers last year without and with Clary. I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure it was a pretty even game split, like 9 apiece each way, including
Yep.
finals. And he only averaged like, well, I say only 114, which is still a really good average. But when he's priced at, I think it's 119. It's
Mm-hmm.
like 6 or so points overpriced in my view. And given he's
Yep.
got that early buy as well, you're better off going someone that presents a bit more value, possibly. But I think Petrarca's a wait and see now with Clary seemingly playing footy again.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. I have nothing else to add to that. It's spot on. What I'm really keen to get into is what Dimmer said about Flanders today, mate. Now,
Mm,
I'm sure you've seen it alongside half of everyone that actually cares about Supercoach because, my goodness, it's a glowing endorsement. I'll just read it out for all our listeners. This is Dimmer on Sam Flanders. I think this guy is going to take the AFL world a little bit by storm. I looked at him towards the back end of the year once I became interested in the Suns' job, and I couldn't believe the talent that this boy has got. His capacity to run, he's a really good user of the ball, he's incredibly smart, and I think he'll reach the potential this club invested in him. He's only going to get better. Now, this bit I found a little bit weird because a head coach referencing Supercoach, it's interesting. For all those people who play Supercoach out there, get this kid in your side. We're going to feed him as much as we can. Wow. What was your initial thoughts on that? Did you just go, all right, Flanders is straight back in?
Initially, yes, Guthrie was
Yep.
straight out, Flanders
Yep.
back in, but I just didn't like what it does, that extra money spent to the rookies. I think it's really important, as much as it is picking the high priced and good premos, it's also really important to invest in the best rookies. And a lot of the time, the best rookies are those high end guys. And, something like a Flanders for Guthrie allows that. And the way I see it, Guthrie could average the exact same, if not more than Flanders, and he's proven in that. But whenever it's very rare for a coach to talk players up like that, and especially reference Supercoach, so that does prick the ears up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, with Flanders though, he's got 3 games that we get to watch, 2 preseason games and opening round. That bye early is concerning that we keep hampering on about, but I think what score would you need to see from Flanders to pick him? I'm thinking a
oh.
105 plus.
Nah, see, I'm a little bit higher. Like, I was big on him
Higher?
at the end of last year. Yeah.
Yep.
I referenced that I bought him in fantasy just as, last whim result to try and get a little bit higher in the rankings. And obviously, it's a completely different game. But
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
time I'm checking the Gold Coast scores, I'm seeing Flanders at the top of the list. And his fantasy score was fantastic, but also his super coach score was very, very good. So honestly, if Flanders just literally goes 120, I will be reassessing.
Mm.
Like I could completely go rogue, and there's a chance that I only start three premium midfielders, and then
Oh, interesting.
moving Flanders in, moving one of them down, seeing what happens. Because if there's good rookies, like if you've got McKercher popping, and then obviously you've got Riley Sanders going well, and if Matt Roberts
Mhm.
pops as well, you could
Yep.
have Josh Sin off halfback popping as well.
Yep.
Like it's not crazy to start 4 rookies on field in your mids. I know
Yeah.
it would be risky, but I mean, that would be last minute scenario, like scrambling to make that happen. But absolutely. And there was something else that he said as well. And this isn't about a forward premium. This is another Gold Coast rookie that's in the forward line, 133K, Alex Sexton. And Dimmer was asked, what can the fans expect as far as seeing some old faces in new positions? Will we see some role changes for players? So he's basically said, yes, there will be. You've got to remember that every game style requires different positions, blah, 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 generic response. And then he singles out Alex Sexton. He says Sexton is one of those players. I look at the way we want to play our rebounding backs. He's played the vast majority of his career as a forward, but he's an incredible athlete. His ability to cover ground, to use the ball, proves from my point of view, he could really be a good rebounding defender, and he's had a great preseason. If that doesn't scream pick me at 133K, I have no idea what does. Because that is the perfect role for a forward rookie.
Oh, absolutely. And 133K, you only really need them going at 60 average. But at that role, I think even if he's so inexperienced at it and hasn't really played it in the past, he's never really averaged. I think the most he's ever averaged disposal wise in his career is 15 disposals. But honestly, that's probably all we would need off that halfback flank to get a
Absolutely.
60, 70 average. And you're absolutely laughing. Getting an endorsement like that from your coach when talking about Lockie Weller replacements is really, really good for him. So definitely in my team now. I didn't have him the other night, but how can you not have him after that?
Completely agree. And then obviously, as we know, he's a forward. But after round 6, I mean, you get that DPP straight away. That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. Going to go to some questions now. Jay has said LDU a trap due to injury. I personally think he's not a trap, but if we're referencing risk profile, you have got to understand that there is a huge chance that he may not play every single game. What do you think, mate?
Yeah, well, history says he misses games, but we've seen players like that before where they have injury affected seasons, but then all of a sudden can start stringing together full seasons. And I think with such a young player, I think developing body, trying to bulk up every single preseason, it can actually hamper some players. I know Zach Reid, especially from Essendon, he had a few stress fractures in his back, and it was just from growing and trying to put on muscle and really make himself strong enough to be in the AFL system. So I
Yep.
think, given the past, it is a little bit of a worry, the games he's missed, but with the 40 trades, you're allowed to, I think, pick these premiums that can miss games, especially because he's footy style, I think, is one of the most suited to Supercoach in the league at the
Absolutely
moment.
agree.
He
Yep.
tackles, contested ball, can hit the scoreboard, finds it regularly as well when he's in that midfield, and he's their best midfielder, first string. Um, it's not trap, but it's a caution, I'd say.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. Completely agree. Just love the way he goes about it. He just looks obviously, and not to shit on North, but he just looks so good all the
Mm.
time when he actually is playing. Now I don't know if that's you're comparing diamonds to coal, but he just looks fantastic every time he's out there. It's just I wouldn't say he's definitely going to play every single game that you need him for, and I would definitely be checking my phone up until the bounce whenever North are scheduled to play, especially in best 18
Yeah.
weeks. Johnny Smith, thank you for dropping by. We're starting both Dawson and Laird. Now, you're the stats man on this. You've done some fantastic research, so you can answer this one.
Well, I think it's definitely plausible. I was actually interested today. We were talking in our chat about the ownership numbers of both of them, and Dawson's got more ownership numbers by a fair bit than Laird. And it's just really interesting. Like we're talking about a guy in Rory Laird who averaged 127 in 2022. Um, hu- Under the 120 last season, but if you take out that write off in round one where he scored 50, he averaged 120. And I was looking at his numbers today. He's missed 4 games in 7 seasons, and that is just reliability that you look for in premiums where you're always copping injuries. And another stat that really stood out to me is that he's only gone sub 90 3 times in his last 64 games, and 2 of them were 80s, which is
Which
just
is
it's consistency, reliability with his body, and I just don't think you can pass that up. And with Dawson as well, career best season last year, they can both score in the same team. I don't see why you couldn't start both of them.
absolutely agree. I currently have neither, but I'm trying every way, every logical way to get Laird into my side. But
Mm.
I literally have PTSD of watching him round one last year, where he just looked like he
Oh,
would rather be anywhere else than playing footy. I don't know what was going on there. That was
yeah.
a complete and utter shit show. Peter Costello, we love that. Hi, gents. Hope the evening has been well for you both. Was wondering if it's worth employing the traditional Primo and Rook skeleton structure and avoid mid-price bonanza given the risk v reward benefit. It definitely could be, in my opinion, but I just think the game has evolved so much. And when you're talking about mid prices, are we talking about like a Cam Guthrie that has averaged like a primo before at
I th-
420k? Like, I just think, and we've got
mm.
4 extra trades along with last year. I think as long as your risk profile is okay and it's not in dire straits where you're starting a Zach Williams, an Elliot Yo, a LDU, and a 5, then I think you're going to be okay. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, I agree. And given there's so many like genuine mid-price options, I think it'd be silly to ignore some of the value that we got out there at the moment. Um,
Yep.
and again, we've just been speaking on and on about how we've got 40 trades, and yes, it's only 4 more than last year, but The year before that, it was even less than 36. We just keep getting more and more. And I think that as part of that, the game's evolved, as you said, where you can now pick a lot more mid prices, have a bit more risks. And yeah, obviously you need to see reasons why to pick these mid prices in the preseason, how they're playing footy, not just scoring wise or disposal wise, but also the eye test. What's their role? Do they look fit? But yeah, you'd be silly to ignore some of the value you got and just go primo and rookies, I think.
Absolutely. Like you've got, just to name a few, Carl Amon averaged 106 in his new role at halfback. He's touted to start there this year. Huge on the watch list. You've got Nick Martin, who I believe is literally Essendon's second best player behind Zach Merritt, at 492k midfielder who could easily be top 6 defender once DPP additions come into the game. And then you've got like someone like Ollie Wines, who I personally don't like that pick because even in his Brownlow year, he wasn't averaging absolutely off the charts. But then again, if you start with a Wines and he goes absolutely hot, you could be pivoting from that to say a Laird or a Dawson or even a Bont if you don't start for a little bit less than what you'd need to traditionally, so to speak. You could even if hell freezes over and Elliot Yeo becomes a premium playing midfield and he doesn't get injured, like, making sandwiches in the morning and somehow falling on his neck and breaking it. I don't know, because he always seems to be injured. But you've got to have a look at him. And again, it comes back to risk profile. Like, you can't be starting all these injury prone players because it's just a recipe for disaster. Like, you're going to be up shit creek in no time. So I think you need to understand where you are, what you're doing, and how you're going to get out of it if it goes pear-shaped real quick. That's one of the reasons why I'm not starting Zach Williams at this stage.
Yep.
Main reason he plays for Carlton, and we all know my opinion on Carlton, but he's just a walking Band-Aid. And if I need to, he's not going to rise that much and just jump on him when he's actually played a game of AFL football. But that's just my opinion, mate. We'll ditch questions for a little bit. We'll keep going. And again, this falls into your area of expertise, mates, because it's talking about a rookie, someone that's been in the system for a while, and they seem to, they were touted to have potentially the number one ruck role at a South Australian club, and that's Jordan Sweet. What are your thoughts on Sweet now, considering it seems like Soldo gave him an absolute bath and killed Zerk Thatcher in the practice game as well? So it seems as if Soldo is going to be the number one ruck and Sweet won't be. Do you have any kind of interest for playing R3 at the moment?
I do have interest in playing R3 if we get one, but that's the biggest thing. I don't think we're going to get one at this stage unless it's a Kruger from the Pies or a Naismith can get in as a second ruck. But I think the Sweet, I was very red hot him to start. Like, I had him for a few weeks, as I said, I think on the Rucks podcast, just because I didn't want to have to find that 150k if he did get named. But I think that pick's completely dead in the water now. All the reports coming out from the Port Match Sim is that Soldo was number one and he dominated Sweet. And it's a bit disappointing given I think Sweet has been the best state league ruck across the whole country in the last 2 years. But it looks like he's just going to have to bide his time in the SANFL even longer now. And I think he will play footy next year, but not enough to warrant a 158k price tag at R3.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, just going back to Naismith, he's played 30 games of AFL. 30.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't think you could go there. If I am going to have a playing R3, it would have to be Nathan Kruger, and that is a big if because he is the epitome of Band-Aid. Like, that man's body is absolutely disgustingly torn up. It's sad to an extent. But right now, I've just got the 102k loop. If anything else pops up, then obviously consider it, mull over it, see what happens. But I think the only one you'd have to consider would be Conway, wouldn't it? Like, is he in contention to take over Stanley? I know he's 180k, but there's a world where if he plays the practice games and it looks like they're going to go in with two genuine ruckmen, because we all know Stanley's athleticism and how he can run for days and everything. Surely there's a sniff there where you can put him on your bench. What are your thoughts on that, mate?
Well, if Conway is picked round one, I'll pick him. I know 108k is a lot to pay, but just with this best 18 system that we've got for a few rounds and the middle season buy rounds, and with fully trades, you can be more aggressive, and to be more aggressive, you need to make money faster. And so I
Yep.
think starting a loop would be a mistake if you have an option like a Conway. And I think Dangerfield the other day actually did give him a bit of a pump up. Although Dwayne Russell from SEN and Fox Footy, he went down to Geelong's training the other day, and he said that whilst Conway looked really good, he still thinks that it's going to be Stanley's number one spot to start the season. But as you said, if he dominates in the preseason games and actually really gives Chris Scott a reason to pick him, then why not pick him at 180k if he's that number one ruck? I know Cal Toomey for a few years now, even his draft year, was saying that this guy's going to be a really good ruckman one day.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to Naismith as well, he's solo rucking tomorrow without Nank. So even if he plays well, it's going to be hard to get a gauge without the Tigers skipper in there. But what I'm hoping for is he just plays a better game than Samson Ryan, because I think that's his avenue into the side. It's not
Yep.
Nank, it's Samson Ryan. So if he plays better than him, then we could even have him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I pay 180k for an R3. Obviously, it's a little bit different because we got more buy rounds this year. But ideal scenario is maybe he doesn't play this year and then comes in next year at a discount and then just has that that mantle as the number one ruck down at the Cattery. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I'm not too sure yet. I haven't actually considered it or tried to play with a structure with 180k R3 there. It's always just been the 102k. Moving on, Burgoyne and Sin played very well in the match simulation for Port. Is there any love there? Personally, I'm thinking Josh Sin, if he's picked round one, he is an absolute lock for me on that bench. 123k midfielder who's playing off halfback. I'm all in on that. Absolutely all in. What about yourself, mate? Any love for Burgoyne and Sin?
Yeah, well, Sin, he's been a bit like I guess a Will Gould, where every single preseason he's talked about as a rookie option. But it seems this season people are saying that he looks like he's actually really added to his attacking game and has really developed over this preseason.
Yep.
So he's definitely one I'm watching, and Port have always rated him. You know, they traded above Essendon with West Coast Live during the draft to get Sin. So he's a player that they really did target, and I guess with the departure of Dersma, Bonner, I know he wasn't getting too many games, and a few other guys, there is that spot available for a Sin, for a Bergwijn. And Bergwijn in particular as well played on the wing for the ones today, dominated, not today, the other day, and dominated by all reports. And 170k though, it's a bit of an elevated price tag, so you just got to look what else we get.
No, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Get to some questions now. That was a fantastic summary by you. Very well done. Jay, are you guys getting on the Lazaro hype? I am, but I'm not. And to elaborate on that, it's the price point for me. I like having a placeholder, so to speak, at that price point in my team where he is. So currently, Lazaro is F4 for me. And I know that might be a little bit thin, but just liking having that price point there, because I've also got Caleb Windsor at F5. I mean, if it eventuates, absolutely, that would be fantastic. But obviously, it was only one game, and I'm going to need to see a lot more from that. Generally, I would like to have maybe, a 200k player there based just for price point, just so you've got that flexibility to go down to literally anyone below that. I hate when I'm set on a structure and then need to go up and you've just got to tear it to shreds.
Yeah,
that just
it's the
does
worst.
my head in. What are your thoughts, mate? You big on Lazaro?
Oh, I think you've hit the nail on the head, absolutely, in terms of the placeholder. But I think I am quite big on him. two reasons. I did watch that game, that only the first half, but he really caught my eye, and he just looked quicker and getting a lot of the ball, and he used it well, which was something that I saw looking back through his stats. He's actually been a really good disposal efficiency person. But I think the second reason and the main reason I'm buying into this Lazaro hype is purely because, and I mentioned it on the last pod, when
Mhm.
you've got your midfield coach saying that he's really had a good preseason, unheralded preseason, and locked down a spot in the midfield, I don't think there's a better person besides maybe the head coach to say stuff like that than your midfield coach, the position that you're vying to get into. So
Yeah.
that's something that really caught my eye. And again, with all these guys, they're placeholders, and we need to watch them in the preseason. But all signs are looking pretty good for Lazaro at the moment.
Yeah, I concur, mate. I just think it's, as I said, it's so much easier to go down than to go up,
Mm.
structurally speaking. Peter Costello again. What would be the maximum amount of forward premiums do you think is a viable quantity to have without risking too much exposure of firing back against one side if all doesn't work out? Very well worded. Very well worded. Um, honestly, I don't like two forward premiums at the moment. I played with that earlier on, and now I'm down to none. I think one, none, completely viable, but two at the absolute maximum. Absolute maximum. Because then I just think you're missing out on too much value. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I've got zero at the moment, as we said before, and I think it's definitely a viable option. And I agree with you that two might be a bit too much this season, especially when, Flanders you could have as a cheaper forward premium. And then why wouldn't you go someone like a Steele or a Guthrie or a Martin or a Amon or Crouch? There's so many guys that you can get around the ground instead of going for these premiums up forward. And I think on
Mm-hmm.
such a line with so much uncertainty, it might just be the best way to go elsewhere with your cash in the other lines. And then you get free range of 3, 4, 5, 6 game sample size to see who the best forwards are.
Yep.
So I think it's, uh, as I was saying before, a season that's very different to every other year, where we can take some risk down forward, and zero premiums, one premium, very, very viable.
Spot on. Spot on. Next question we got from Johnny. It's great to have you in here tonight, mate. Can you lads define me a forward premium? My goodness, I have had that many so many conversations. What a forward premium is. All I will say is I do not believe that price points regarding forward premiums or defensive premiums are the same as what would determine a midfield premium. Because in my
Mm.
eyes, Flanders is a forward premium, and I'm still not sure if Hayden Young at 525k is a defensive premium. I don't know.
Mm.
But this one's for you, Johnny Smith. I will say that your man Cam Guthrie is not a midfield premium. Joshy, what are you thinking there, mate? What do you define as a forward premium?
Forward premium to me is a top 10 forward,
Yep.
or a top 10 to 12 forward. And especially, I think, in terms of a price point, the car's probably 450k up forward, which is probably the cheapest a premium can get when you compare it to the other lines.
Mm-hmm.
So someone like a Taylor Adams would price him as I'd say he's a mid-pricer, especially because I don't think he's going to be anywhere near that top 10 to 12, which we might talk about later if we get into some traps. But yeah, I think 450k or a top 10 to 12 guy in your eyes is a primo.
Lovely, mate. Lovely. Peter Costello again. Geez, we're I guess we're being showered in royalty here. Structurally speaking, how many trades do you think people should have up their sleeves when the mid-season buys are out of the way, and how many primo upgrades should be left to be done? Then too. So two parts to that. I think. Well, I believe I was speaking the other day. I think it might have been with you, Joshy, that if you don't trade round one and you don't trade round two, and then you're not going to anyway, and then you just wait 2 weeks, you can afford to go 2 trades a week, and it doesn't even matter. So I mean,
Yeah.
I-
I think
yeah, just save him for as much as you can. Obviously, there's going to be correction trades. You need that, but you're going to get a look around zero at what is it, a third of the comp. So I think you'll be fine in that regard.
Yeah.
And coming out of the buys, you always like to be finished, don't you, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the question more shouldn't be how many trades should we have up our sleeves. I think it should be how many boosts we have up our sleeves. And I think
Like
in
that.
terms of
Yep.
boosts, you've got to hold them all for the buys this year. Just
Yep.
I wouldn't be using boosts before the buys, and it will really, really elevate the chances of you getting full primo by the end of the buys.
Well, even the mini buys, you don't get 3 trades, you still only get 2. So that's an interesting
Yep.
aspect to always be cognizant of. Global legend, he's always here. Which primos above 550k are providing us with the most value? Buys not a factor. Well, if we're looking at the midfields, 550k, I'm going to say John Newcomb, who's actually 549k. So I'll slide that one in there. Oh God! And then I see Patrick Cripps 2 spots below him, and it just makes me sick. That's disgusting.
I think Walsh is definitely one as well. I don't have him, but
Absolutely.
he's probably the biggest one. But
Absolutely, his
I
final
wish he didn't
series
have
was
that buy.
electric. He's on a
Yeah.
modified training program, so to speak.
All right. I didn't know
Yes,
that. That's interesting.
yes, that was posted the other day. And then, I mean, Andrew Brayshaw is value as well. At 608k, he could have easily. Well, he went at 116 after the buys. No, after the first 10 rounds, I believe.
Yeah.
Fairly sure you posted that actually, so you're more accredited
Yeah.
than I.
I'll get it up quickly because it coincided with a quote that was on the Freemail website. Just where is it? So yeah, he went 91.1 in the first 7 games and burnt a lot of people. And I nearly picked him, but on May 2nd on the website of Freemail, he said, "I've had a bit of a knee issue going on for a little bit, but I feel like that has come good over the last week. My quad has been playing up a little bit and the attachment is right over the knee. So I just have been having some soreness on the kneecap. It feels like been working heavily with the physios, doctors to try and improve that to get my knee pain free. On the weekend against Brisbane, it was pain free. Hopefully, it stays that way for the rest of the season." And from that point on, the first game post that interview was against the Hawks, where he got 149. And then for the rest of that season, 116.8 average over 16 games. So it really, really coincided with that, what he was saying about his body and a massive, massive jump in average.
Yep. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. Jay's got Windsor from Melbourne a lock. At this stage, for me, he is. Not so much again on the player. I mean, he was playing on the wings in the A team in Match Sim the other week. But again, for me, it's price point. Absolutely love that price point. And you currently don't have him, do you?
No, I'm a lot colder on him, and obviously he plays 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, which could sway me. But I just don't like first year wingmen and wingmen in general when it comes to scoring. So I'm gonna have to see something that convinces me otherwise. But especially, I think his spot won't be too secure in that Melbourne 22. You might start in it, but I don't know. I think he could be a potential guy that could fall out of that 22 at any point in the season or be a sub risk.
Yep. Yep. Global Guthrie lock for me. Jeez, is this not? This could actually be Johnny Smith in disguise because Johnny Smith's all over him. But I'll reiterate: Cam Guthrie at price point is not a premium. If we are talking solely about price point, not a premium, but could be the best stepping stone in the entire game.
Yeah.
Jay, Scoobs, what is your current top 6 midfielders in your team? Well, interesting, mate. My top 6 currently is Bont, Butters, LDU, Sarong, which it goes between Sarong and Brayshaw literally every single day. Then Nick Martin and Cam Guthrie. If anyone's spoken to me regarding Nick Martin, you'd know that it's not even a decision. He's absolutely in there. I like this one. This is a cheeky little dig at Essendon, so we'll allow it. Joshy, why does your jumper say champion when Essendon can't even win a final? You don't need to answer that, mate. That's all right. Johnny, again, any of you lads picking Oliver if he's starting round 1? I can't do it.
Yeah, I don't think I can do it either. But it is hard to ignore 4 seasons in a row of 120 plus. But I think also today, I was talking to you earlier, I was going through my draft ranks because I got a draft tomorrow night. And I'll tell you what, in that format, I know you hate it, but it's going to be bloody hard to place where he is going to be picked in that format because of past average is his top 5 guy, but you
Hmm.
just can you trust anything that's going on with him? I don't think so.
Yeah, yep,
Mm.
spot on. Looking back, Clay Hall injured his ankle today, and that's sad because he was looking really good for a rookie, and especially one
Mm.
from West Coast that you would think would get, an extended period of time actually playing it, um, which is annoying for him. Was he in any of your plans at all, mate?
Yeah, I had him on the midfield bench, but as every rookie is a placeholder, but he actually was trending towards that round one debut, as you were saying. But Footy Rhino, Ryan Daniels on X, he said the injury isn't as bad as they first thought, and they're a bit optimistic as they
Yeah,
wait for scans, but I think he's still going to miss round one.
and by all reports, it was actually Elliot Yeo that injured someone rather than injuring himself.
Mm.
Harley Reid also talking about West Coast. Harley Reid attended CBAs and played off half back for the A's.
Mm.
I mean, I think he should be in 100% of teams. It's fairly
Oh,
obvious.
absolutely. Yeah.
There was a vision of him throwing Ruben Jinby to the ground, which I know got a tent pitched in all of Western Australia's pants. But I mean, he's a superstar. I think we're all picking him. It's not really super coach relevant. And Sinclair is in doubt for round one. Sinclair was never in my plans, just for the contrast of the Marvel to away scoring that has been fairly prominent in a few of the Saints boys. I'm just not looking at Sinclair, so that didn't affect me at all. What about yourself, mate? Was he in any of your, I guess, back six plans at all?
He was early days until I really started to look into and really fall in love with the Houston pick. Because
Yes.
I think two big guys in terms of Dacos and Stewart or Sicily. I think I'm pretty content on picking two of them, and then at the
Mhm.
D3 it was initially Sinclair, but Houston I just love everything about that pick. Whether it's the good buy, only the one buy. He's
Yep.
finished the year, his age, his scoring history against his first few opponents. The games at Adelaide Oval, there's so many reasons to like him, and with this Sinclair injury, I'm not even going anywhere near it now.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't see the positive in it yet. Yet.
Mm.
Um, and we'll get to Peter Costello again. Is there a possibility currently ownage players like Guthrie and Fife, etc., who are coming off long injury layoffs will have low time on ground in the first few opening rounds being implemented, posing risk? Yes, yes, there is. I think so. Absolutely. I know you hate Fife, so you take the floor on it, mate. This is your time to literally drill into why Fife is not a starting pick. So you go for it.
Yeah, well, I think this is a great point in terms of time on ground, and not only for Fife, but Guthrie as well. He's historically hasn't been the highest time on ground player. Frequently looking through his stats, I think a lot of games in the 60s to 70%. But I think it can be a bit more ignored for Guthrie, given that he is a first rotation guaranteed mid for Geelong. Whereas Fife, he has obviously he's a 2 times Brownlow medalist. We know his talent when he's up and going, but he does have Young in there, and they've got Sarong, they've got Brayshaw, they've got Johnson, and O'Meara can run through there. They got heaps of guys, even Aish if they wanted to go with the tagging option. So I think that is also what turns me off about Fife's low time on ground, and I just can't get out of my head Damo saying that he thinks he's going to be heavily monitored, not monitored, managed, and even
Mm-hmm.
the potential sub risk coming on or off the ground. And at 33 years old and injury history, I can absolutely see them managing him.
Yeah, I don't know. I just need him to last 6 rounds and then we're laughing. And I mean, when
Mm.
he's going at 140 over the first, 12, 13 rounds, those people that have Fife in their team, which is, give me 1 second.
quite
a
high. I
lot.
think it's high 30s. And
Oh,
that's the only thing that actually makes me
33%.
a bit
Yeah.
worried. It's
Which,
it's a
yeah,
concern.
absolutely it is. Absolutely. Jay, this one's for you, mate. JG, Parrish or Brayshaw at 608k amount. Who are you taking?
Oh, I think just purely because of Brayshaw's finish to last season and that
Yep.
the quote I was talking about of when he was actually able to get his body fit. I think him, but I do like the look of Parrish, but both of them I'm not going to start because I'm really set on all four of Bont, Laird, Butters, and LDU at the moment, and Steele is that fifth one, who
Yep.
potentially I could get some money to go up to one of those two, but at the moment I just like Steele too much.
Wonderful. Wonderful, mate. Parrish is a non-option until he learns how to kick. But we'll move on. How many non-playing loops should we look to have to start the season off? And out of those non-playing loops, how many of them should we look at having as ones that will play later on in the season? I don't know how you can determine who's going to play later on in the season. I'm not too sure how that works. Honestly, I will have one, and that'll be R3. That's just traditional rule, unless there's a ruckman, as I said, like Nathan Kruger, that's probably won't play ruck, but is, I guess, positioned as a ruck in the game if his body holds up. But I mean, I highly doubt it. Hell's got more chance of freezing over than that happening. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it'd be ludicrous to go more than one, which is always that R3 classic loophole spot. In terms of someone that you think would be playing as a later on in the season, I do think if there was one to make an educated guess about, Tyler Sonsy's been reported for the first two games of the year, or maybe the first three or four. I think he's someone that is going to be in Richmond's best 22 at some point in the year, but 150k, you're not going to start him as a loophole in the forward line.
Yeah, nah, that's rough, isn't it? Rough. We've got Jay again. Wonderful. All reports came out of Freo that Fife was playing mid with the footy trades. Is he worth a risk? Absolutely. All reports in their latest match sim, that's all he did was play midfield and wasn't managed, wasn't anything like that. It was basically play mid, rotate when needed, obviously to the bench because he's not going to stay on the ground for every single minute of the game. And that was all I needed to hear. That was fantastic. At 283k, I mean, I'm ready to get absolutely burnt by Fife again. But hopefully it will be a little bit different this season. Now, I sent the commentary to you, and you were a little bit interested in Fife. Did it sway your mind at all, mate?
Oh, it's just too hard to do, I think, for me. Like, I can't get that sub risk out of my head in the managed minutes. Like, I know he played full time mid, got through the whole session, but so did Elliot Yeo today, and you're probably not going to pick Elliot Yeo off that.
God, no.
So obviously, if he gets through two preseason games, playing full time mid and scoring well, I think it'd be stupid to like completely rule him out. But at this stage, I still don't think I can do it just because, one of the biggest Fremantle fans I know, Damo, just reckons he's at sub risk and going to be managed. And yeah, 33 years old, been saying it on and on, but yeah, it's too risky for me at this stage.
My bold prediction is you will have Fife in your forward line before the season commences. Absolute guarantee, mate. Guarantee. Jay, Scoobs, Nick Dacos are locking your team and Hart. Hart, abso-fucking-lutely. Absolutely. But team, he's currently in there, but I can 100% understand why you wouldn't start him. Absolutely can understand that. It's the ownership, isn't it? Like, I think, I'll get it up now. He's in 63% of teams.
Oh, yeah.
63. That's insane. When Reed is in 74%, a bloke that's at 650k is only 11% less owned than the bloke who's touted to be literally the best draft pick since the coming of Jesus. But it's
Mm.
mental. It's mental. All I will say is that if he pops, you want to be on the right side of him popping rather than being one of the 37% that literally has to tear up their team to get him in or hate. Well, everyone hates Collingwood, but hate watching Collingwood even more. It's just, yeah. At this stage, he's in, but obviously anything can change. Does Windsor go out when Cozzy returns from suspension? I mean, they play different positions. Cozzy was touted to get all his CBA attention, but I don't think that ever eventuated to what he wanted. And obviously, Windsor's going to be on the wing. Cozzy's going to be at that half forward, rolling up into the midfield. I don't think it's going to affect him too much. But obviously, if someone has to come in, someone's got to go out, and they may just shift the magnets. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, mate?
I completely agree. The only one that's probably going to take Windsor's spot is going to be Hunter, because I think that's initially why everyone was looking at him. Because is Hunter going to miss early games in the season? I'm not too
I,
sure, but
all I knew is
yeah,
he wasn't training. That's all
yeah,
I know. It'll be interesting to
yes,
see tomorrow. Definitely have to have a look at that one for sure.
yeah. Because yeah, they do have Langdon. They've got Hunter, Billings. Like there is a bit of competition for that spot, but it won't be Cozzy that gets him out of that team. I can assure that.
Yep, absolutely, mate. We've got Jay for our second last one. Not Supercoach related, but who is your premiership / runner-up and wooden spoon pick? Wooden spoon, West Coast.
Mm.
Ooh, yeah, West Coast, I reckon. Nothing would make me happier than seeing Carlton win the wooden spoon. But then
Be
again,
lovely.
nothing would see me happier than them leading in a prelim and choking that as well. That was fantastic. Either way, I'll be happy. Premiership, Pies, of course. We're going back to back. It's dynasty time for the next, 12, 15 years. Runner-up. We'll just go Brisbane again. We'll take the easy way out. What's your thoughts, mate?
Wooden spoon has to be West Coast, and it wouldn't surprise me if the bottom two this year are both the WA teams. But in terms of the premiership, it's like no one ever gets this right at the start of the season. But I'm going to say
Absolutely.
Melbourne win the flag. I think their list is too good to just have that one in 2021, and that's it. And then runner-up will probably be Collingwood. I reckon Melbourne, Collingwood, Granny, and Melbourne win.
Well, that's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Let's move on.
Yeah.
The Sir 420, good to see you, mate. Glad to have you here. Who do you want to have a breakout year, and who do you think will have a breakout year? Who do I want to have a breakout year is Finn McRae. Who do you think will have a breakout year? My God. I genuinely don't know. That's a fantastic question. That really is a fantastic question. What's your thoughts, mate? While I consider that.
In terms of who do I want to break out, it'll obviously be any Essendon player. But if I was going to go for a non-Essendon player, then probably it's hard to say break out as he's pretty established player, but Hayden Young to go that extra level to the 110 plus, just purely because I have him.
Yep.
And in terms of who do I think will break out, I couldn't do it, but I do think Newcomb does have that 110 plus ability in him. He's gone
Yep.
from a 50 average to an 86 average to high 90s last year, and I could not pick him, but I do think he is someone that can break out and probably will break out.
Love that. Love that, mate. And if I'm going to go, who do you think will have a breakout year? I'll go 2. Nick Martin is going to be top 5 Supercoach defender by the season's end, and Carl Amon is going to be top 10. And I think it's about to continue on with recognizing greatness. I think Nick Martin, as you talked about establishing themselves, he is, when people talk Essendon, they're going to think Merritt, Parrish, and Nick Martin.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts. We had some sent in to prior of us starting. One was the top 6 defenders, top 8 mids, top 6 forwards, and top 2 rucks come season's end. We're going to skip that one, and because it's going to make you listen to the previous podcasts we've recorded. So go for it. Go for it. Who's the number one breakout player of 2024? Who's your thoughts, mate, in Supercoach related terms?
Jesus, it's hard. Obviously, I've gone through Newcomb. Couldn't pick it though. I'll go with. Have a quick. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Newcomb. It's something I haven't really put too much thought into, and he's the one that going through my draft ranks, as I said before, that I actually pegged at a 108, which is
Yep.
a significant jump on his last season. So I reckon I'd go with Newcomb, or even an Anderson can break into that 110 bracket, and
Uh,
a real
yeah.
smoky Chad Warner potentially.
Yep. My number one breakout player is a rookie. It's just going to be Finn McRae because it's basically now or never, honestly. And if he gets a good run at it, there's a chance that we might not even be trading him out of our sides. He could. I mean, outlandish statement is Finn McRae could easily be, that player that you hold on to the entire year and you're looping come season's end. That might not be top 10, but around that mark, 11 to 12. That's just something extremely outlandish. And for our last question, who's the biggest trap of 2024, mate?
There's plenty, but someone that we haven't really discussed, which I'll just bring up, is it's Taylor Adams, and you know him well, obviously coming from Collingwood. But
yes,
I just
yes, I do.
cannot believe the amount he's in. I'm pretty sure it's 14% at the moment. I'll have a quick little squiz. Yeah, at the moment 14%, and that's after an average of 78 last season. And I understand this talk of more midfield at the Swans, but he's someone that I had as a forward in draft last year, and I hated every single minute of it because even when he was playing full games, and for someone with such a bad injury history, he actually played the whole home and away season. But
He did, yes.
his scoring was so volatile, and I know he only had 30% CBAs, but the year before that, he had 65% per game and still only averaged 79. So this talk of extra midfield time, I'm not actually sure it's going to do much for him. And at 437K, injury prone, not getting any younger, and shown in his second last most recent season, 65% CBA is only an average of below 80. I just don't understand the pick, and it's something I cannot get around, especially with another buy player.
Absolutely concur. Absolutely concur. I'd almost rather you find 10K, put a rookie in the forward line, and pick Elliot Yeo. Like I've spent, I think, off the top of my head, 9 years watching Taylor Adams go for these inside corridor kicks and literally stub his toe 70% of the time. Ball hits the deck, or it's just an instant turnover. Don't get me wrong, the man was one of the best clubmen, courageous as all hell, run through a brick wall. But
yeah,
Supercoach is about, you've got to have finesse. You've got to have good disposal efficiency. We talk about it all the time. Fantasy, I can understand the pick. Real Dream Team, I can understand the pick. Taylor Adams is, excuse me, same for me. Biggest trap for me. I'd honestly rather Elliot Yeo add a little bit more.
And I think another point with Adams as well is he's 17K more than Guthrie. We've spoken up Guthrie most this podcast. Guthrie's in 8%, Adams is in 14%. Why not save 13K and just get in Guthrie?
Absolutely agree, mate. Our last question, then we're going to call it there because tonight's been fantastic. Is it worth considering pursuing a ruck pod option such as Flynn, who has metrics to have a breakout season, being in the system for around 4 odd seasons now, which is usually a sweet spot for rucks? I don't know how you can go past Max Gawn and Brodie Grundy for a combined total of literally just over $1 million. I don't know how you can do that. The only way I consider it is if you're going up to like English, or this is obviously to start the season. That's an absolute no for me. What about yourself, mate?
I completely agree. And even if you were to, feel a bit spicy and wanted to go without one of them and go for a pod breakout ruck, it wouldn't be Flynn for me. It would be Sherry if you're going to go with one of them. And
Yep.
Sherry's 70K cheaper as well. But yeah, it wouldn't be going anywhere near anyone else but Gorn and Grundy.
Yep. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, that concludes us tonight. But we have one last thing to say. The Supercoach Hub has actually linked with Lifeline to make an NRL and AFL charity league. So it's a $50 entry, but $25 goes to Lifeline and the rest goes to the prize pool. So this is an affiliate for Supercoach Hub, and myself and Joshy are going to tweet our specific code out. So if you use our code and then make the donation, we actually get ranking points compared to other podcasters. And that's a little bit of competition between us, just as a little bit of background. So it's for a good cause, and it creates the opportunity for a bunch of prizes for different things through the season. But most of all, it goes to Lifeline, which is a fantastic cause. So Joshy and I will be sending that out straight after we conclude here. So if you can, or if you're willing to, make a donation, do whatever you can. As I said, Lifeline is a fantastic company. It does so much for so many people. Joshy, where can the listeners and viewers find you, mate?
Just on X at JG2325, my display name right there, and got a heap of stats for everyone to feast their eyes on over this preseason.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you can find myself at ScobyRyan36 on X as well. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do whatever you can. Join the Discord, because we know that there's a lot going on in there, and it's not just for AFL. There's so many different fantasy aspects going on in there. Link trees in the bio. You all know what to do. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for sending in so many questions. We love you each week, and it's goodbye for now. And I'm sure we'll see you all soon.
Absolutely.